All right, Algebra 2 fans, how we doing this morning? This is review 7.5 to 7.7. This is all about logarithms and that sort of thing. So, first things first, logarithms and exponentials to an extent. So, the first two sections are expanding and condensing logarithms. All right, so the things to remember about this are if it's a positive, if it's on top, well, that's a positive log. Like, in other words, if it's in the numerator, like top and bottom. If it's on bottom, it's a negative log. All right, and if it's an exponent, you put it out front. And that's part of it. If it's a positive log, when you shrink it, you put it on top. If it's a negative log, when you shrink it, you put it on bottom. If it's an exponent, when you shrink it, if it's out front, when you shrink it, you put it as an exponent. So here's what I mean. So if I'm expanding, they're all going to be log base 3. I have a 3, an x, and a 5. The 3 and x are on top, so those are both positive logs. The 5 is on bottom, so that'll be a negative log. Cool. And let's just say, for gigs and shiggles, that the x had a 4 as an exponent. Well, instead of being an exponent right there, I would stick it out front. Okay? But it doesn't, so... But that's the rules. That's how you expand and contract. So there's that. Number 2, same idea. Now, this has 4 items on it. It's got a 2 and an x on top, and it's got a 5 and a y on bottom. And the log is an ln. So we have, let's use the brown for the top. So I have ln of 2, positive because it's on top. You don't have to write the plus, but it's the x to the third. Well, the 3 goes out front, just like that. The negative ones that are on bottom, okay, so negative ln of 5. And then the y, negative 3 ln of y. You can do these in one shot. Cool? The next one, okay, so the next one is the same idea, but it's got one little thing in it, okay? This guy right there. Remember, a square root of x is the same as x to the 1/2. All right, I don't know where that extra little line came from. As x to the 1/2. Okay, so that root is an exponent. Okay, you need to be able to see that root as a 1/2. Okay, so when we expand it, it's log of 2, positive because it's on top, plus 1/2 log of x, positive because it's on top, minus log of y, minus 5 log of z. Cool? And the last one. Remember, this is a root, so the whole thing is to the 1/3. So each and every one of these items, the 3 is to the 1/3, the y is to the 1/3, and the z is to 1/3. So each and every one of these is going to have a 1/3 out front. Okay? Another way of thinking about this is I can also think of it like this. That is 1/3 log base 7, not 2, 7 of 3y over z. Okay, so this becomes the log I'm putting in front of all 3 of those. All right, I just went ahead and moved it out front so I can go from there. So that's log 1/3 log base 7 of 3 plus 1/3 log base 7, not 2, keep on right 2, of y plus 1/3 log base 7 of z. Yeah. Cool? All right, contracting is the same idea. So those are those guys. Condensing or contracting is the same thing, just the other direction. All right? If I were you, I'd pause the video, see if you can do it on your own. All right. But here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and start moving. I'm going to do these in one shot. These are all log base 3, so it's log base 3. And I got 2 that are positive and 1 that is negative. So the 4 and the y go on. Let's keep the same colors. The 4 and the y are on top. Green. 4 and the y are on top. And the x is on bottom. That's your answer. And the reason the x is on bottom is because that log was negative. Cool. If there was a 4 right there, I would have moved it to that point and made the x the 4th. But it wasn't, so I'm not gonna. Okay, do the next one. Pause the video, do the next one. Alright. These are all ln, so that's ln of 3. It's positive. It goes on top. The y is negative, so it goes on bottom, but it's got that 4 out front. The z is also positive, so it goes on top. Remember, it's to the 1/2. Now, at this point, when you condense these things, I don't care when you condense if you put it as a square root of z or a z to the 1/2. Okay? I don't really care how you put it when you're condensing it. Now, when you expand this guy needs to expand to this because that root is an exponent. All right? Let me repeat that. If you go from here to a condensing, I don't care which of these two forms you use. And neither does Miss Rowland. But if we go from here to there, if we're going the other way around, if we're starting with this and breaking down to that, you need to recognize that this is a root. This is a 1/2 and put it out front. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Number 7. Pause it and do it on your own, but let's do this real fast. So that's log of 5 x squared y to the 6 third root of z. Okay? The x and the z are negative, so they go on bottom. The y and the 5 are positive, so they go on top. Number 8. Okay, number 8's a little tricky. Now, see, notice how they all have that 4th on there? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to put it out front. Okay? And I'm going to deal with it in a minute. So deal with the rest of it, and we'll deal with the 1/4 at the end. So I've got log base 3 of the 2 is on top. The x to the 3rd is on top. The 5 is on bottom. And the z to the 7th is on bottom. Okay? So that's that part. Now the whole thing is the 1/4. It's got that 1/4 out front, so we got to make that an exponent. So the whole thing is to the 4th root, or the whole thing is to the 1/4. Remember, if you're condensing, we really don't care which way you go. That's fine. But when you're expanding, you got to recognize that. Cool?